Recent trends in India-Africa relations. What is the significance of Africa to India? Explain the significance of Africa to India. Recent trends in India-Africa relations. Explain the significance of Africa to India. See, whenever you are writing IR answers, there is a format to introduce an answer. For example, you are writing India-China relationship. You have to write India-China relations are defined by geography and developed through history. India-China relations are defined by geography and developed through history. For example, if you are writing an answer on India-US relations, the relation between world's oldest democracy and world's largest democracy is always in a roller coaster. India-America relations. For example, we are writing about India-Asian relations. Civilizational cultural ties you have to start. Okay. For example, when you are writing about India-Africa relations. India-Africa relations. How to the interaction of IR is also very important. India and Africa have shared history of freedom struggles, civilization, shared history of civilization, culture and oppression. And as you all know, Vasco da Gama came to Calicut from Africa. He was first stepped in the Cape of Good Hope and then came to India, Calicut. So, with that perspective also you can start. Mahatma Gandhi is a goodwill ambassador between India and Africa. Mahatma Gandhi is a goodwill ambassador between India and Africa. Recent trends in India-Africa relations. First thing, all 54 nations in Africa are the members of NAM. All 54 nations in Africa are the members of NAM, Non-Alignment Movement. Number two, right now India and China are competing for its soft power in Africa. Number three, the India-Africa trade in 2005-06 is around $11 billion. Now it is around $62 billion. Whereas Africa-China trade is $166 billion. Africa-China trade is 2 years back it is $166 billion. And earlier we have India is supporting Africa Fund. India helped for Africa Fund, AFRICA. Action for resistance. Africa means action for resistance against invasion, colonialism and apartheid. Africa means action for resistance against invasion, colonialism and apartheid. Africa Fund. And 15 years back, when APJ Abdul Kalam visited Africa, he proposed Pan-African E-Network. APJ Abdul Kalam proposed Pan-African E-Network to connect African health centers and educational institutions with India, and India will transfer its important knowledge in health and education to Africa. This is called Pan-African E-Network. It started recently. And India and Africa also have nuclear issues. Namibia, India and Africa have nuclear deal, civilian nuclear deal. But Pelindaba Treaty in Africa have become a major obstacle for India to get nuclear material from Namibia. Pelindaba Treaty have become an obstacle. And next important thing, Indian oil companies, particularly ONGC, is investing in many countries in Africa. And India is a partner in BRICS. India is a partner in IBSA. So we have much consonance with Africa. The most important point is India-Africa Summit. India-Africa Summit. 3 years back, India-Africa Summit, third India-Africa Summit was held at New Delhi. First in 2008 at New Delhi, second in 2011 at Addis Ababa, third in 2015 again at New Delhi. The third India-Africa Summit. 40 nation heads have attended this summit. 40 heads from Africa have attended this summit. This is very historic. And Modi last year visited Africa, this year, today he is in visit to Africa, Rwanda, Uganda and South Africa. And to connect with Indian Ocean region, we have started Project Mosam. We also initiated SAGAR, the initiative of SAGAR, SAGAR, security and growth for all in the region. And we have, security and growth for all in the region. And India is working, many Indian missions are working in UN peacekeeping force, where most of the forces are working in Africa. Most of the Indian peacekeeping forces who went to UN peacekeeping forces went to Africa. Example Congo, example Somalia. Okay, this is the answer. And the potential, Africa is growing middle class market. Africa is a growing middle class market with a cheap human resource, with a cheap natural resource. So India is economy which is producing economy. Now India needs Africa for markets, and Africa needs India not only for markets but strategically for South-South cooperation. Strategically for South-South cooperation. Now the world politics have shifted from Atlantic to Indo-Pacific. World politics have been shifted from Atlantic to Indo-Pacific. So Africa is much more significant to India today than yesterday. Africa is much more significant to India today than yesterday. But there are certain hiccups. Number one, LDCs. We have given free access to the Indian markets to least developed countries in Africa, but we are not completely helping them. First thing. Second thing, treatment of African students in India. Our racial discrimination. Treatment of African students in India. So except these two, India and Africa relations are really faring well. This is the answer.